Lucas. And with the new, double lane both side highway, it's only maybe a half an hour drive, 40-minute drive from Cabo to here. So I don't even think it's really 50 miles.
So that was kind of what I wanted to get to Todos Santos has become a really cool, it's always been a cool place, but with some of the improvements that they've made on the highways, you still have that kind of remote country rustic component, but you're not as cut off from,
this is what I say. It's the closest place you can possibly go from the United States to really be far away.
That's a good one.
You're definitely, you can be isolated and reclusive here completely. But you can also be, watch Netflix and be on the internet and talking business. I run an office out of here, and, but I still feel like if you saw my view, I am reclusive. Except for all the beautiful homes being built around us now. But yeah, it's got Todos Santos still has that old Mexico feel, with not being large. It's still a 8,000 person population. But it's got huge cities on both sides an hour away, so
right.
It has the influences, but it's maintaining its beauty, and it always, in a sense, will, because of how the projects and how the city is bringing itself out. It's going to be all built to its original colonial 1800s, early 1900s look, and just stay really kind of rootsy.
I think that it's interesting. San Jose has grown quite a bit in the last decade and a half with the marina and so on. I guess maybe even more than a decade and a half. But I often think, and this is going to sound lame, and I don't mean it to Cabo San Lucas people, but Cabo San Lucas was kind of like the sacrificial lamb for Southern Baja when it came to... Well, it just grew on top of itself. And... and
nobody understood. Like, it was the first in Baja,
exactly.
in a sense. So nobody really anywhere understood how to grow a city like that.
And I don't think it had anything to do with understood. I think it kind of just happened on its own. It was a sleepy. You've seen the pictures, the really cool pictures of what it was before, they really started developing in there. And
right.
So there
was no stopping. There was no. Now at least, what I mean by they didn't know any better is, I could tell you Todos Santos master plan, committees, and everything that's been put into place is so that doesn't happen.
Right.
It's going to grow here. It's starting to happen already with some pretty big, large projects with big players, but it's being curtailed, and everybody kind of knows this town is a super activist town, and when things go on that the town doesn't want, the town reacts, and it's known by all developers. And I'm not saying that because I'm one of them. I'm not. I kind of stay out of the fray.
Yeah, and I think that we could go a lot of different directions on that topic from the standpoint of being a visitor and a foreigner.
No political or environmental.
But
talk like that
at the end of the day, I know in speaking with you and being friends with you, like myself, we recognize we're foreigners and we're welcomed. We're foreigners, we're guests, and I know that both you and I have the same level of respect and understanding for that fact. So let's talk about work for you or your business. It's so interesting the way you just kind of shift and twist and get into new things. So currently you are a concert cruise. And we know you're a travel agent or you have a travel agency, but do you call yourself a concert cruise promoter today?
I think officially I can probably throw that title into the ring. I think I'm wearing that hat, especially because how it's all morphed over the last 5 years. So what we do is, first and foremost, we're a travel agency that we've had for, almost 20 years, and we have about 2,000 travel agents that book their business through us, and we host their program. We give them all their websites and their booking engines and their commissions and everything like that. So that's kind of, we're called a host travel agency. And through this, we've always loved going on the concert cruises. We've always been super interested in it, and we jumped into it about 5 years ago. And we're kind of working on a small segment of it. We do the 3-day weekend Los Angeles concert cruise event, and it just works for our clientele, who happen to be probably 85-90% Latin based, and so it's great. I love it. I couldn't have asked for anything more and have more fun.
So, what are some of the names of the concert cruises?
We have the Latin Legends Cruise in September with a bunch of old Latin legends, or at least who the old Latin people considered legends. We have War, which is a great old school band, 8-time Grammy winner Denise Williams, and a whole slew of them. In May, coming up in 2 weeks, we have the Latin Soul Cruise, which is one of our favorites. And then in January, we just added the Old School Cruise, which is going to be Zapp and Rolls Royce and just a bunch of, we go after the oldies but goodies, the Latin crowd in the 40s, 50s, and 60s who just remember jamming to the old school goodies, and it just brings back great memories, and it's nostalgic. And
you're kind of old, man, so I mean it's all good. It's right up your alley.
Ryan, I got a big one coming up May 22nd. You coming down to hang out with me, buddy? Calling you out online right now.
Right, yeah. If I'm off the grid May 22nd, everybody knows why.
Yeah, exactly. Don't blame it on me, though.
Well, so listen, we've covered a few topics, and I think the interesting thing, and I'd love to kind of weave it all together. You've got a business that, to a degree, is a virtual business. You have roots from Southern California, connections and friends. You do the other side of this here that we can't forget is you've got a property on VRBO, or is it on Airbnb, or do you do it on both, or is it
just Airbnb?
Yeah. So again, a serial entrepreneur that decided to pick up and move to Mexico with a family of 3. All of this is possible.
It's funny when you say it. I think about this often, is that there's such a giant segment of the United States that think that it's crazy, but believe me, folks, and there's people all over the world that have jumped off the grid and are following dreams and living different worlds and lives. I was just in Fiji and met a bunch of really cool families that, they're taking a couple of years off and just letting it roll. And so there's a lot more people than ever before doing it. So it's a great feel. I would say that the things that I miss the most are probably, obviously, my friends and family, but I have a lot of that down here. But when we talk about moving back, I don't think I can ever move back to Orange County. I don't think I can ever. I would ever want to just live that ruckus lifestyle again. I'd probably move to like Waco, Texas, or somewhere like that, and get a couple acres with dirt bikes and fishing boat and do that lifestyle instead. Or we talk about, if we ever move back, or what we do when the kids are going to college, is maybe getting a mountain house home somewhere and maybe splitting our time up.
So let me 2 things here. Number one, I want to clarify. I mean, you're doing well for yourself, but it would be easy for a listener to hear you talking about, taking a couple years off and a mountain house, to think that you're some multi-millionaire running in a crowd of people
right.
that are trust fund kids.
That's right, I'm not.
So, I mean, I think the thing to point out there is that so many people think that it requires so much money to live that kind of life. And I think the flip side of it to kind of expose is that there's this, at least the Southern California lifestyle, there's there's so many ways to scale that back, and it becomes so much easier when you're living a little more remote and away from all of those money holes.
I mean, not having Target 2 miles away from my wife and kids, that helps.
Well, so the reality of it is like I said, in listening to you, the listener could stumble down a path of thinking that, again, you've got some trust fund that's making this possible, and that's not the case. And beyond that, again, you're successful, but the point that I'm trying to make is that the lifestyle that you're living does not require a trust fund. It requires some creativity, some flexibility, and a desire. And that was going to be the question.
And the ability to let go of a lot of just the things that make life so easy up there. You know, you do let go. Like a lot of the material things you're going to end up letting go down here. You know, our toys to our kids are, new motorcycle gloves or something instead of, whatever it is up there these days.
So that's what I was going to, my next question to you is going to be to kind of wrap things up here. This focus on you as an individual and a family, your family, and the decisions that you've made, and discussing about the fact that there are a lot more of those people than probably the average American realizes. So asking you, here's the question: without, again, we're not judging, and we're not saying one is better than the other, but what is it about you and your family that differentiates you from families that have not or are not or do not want to make the jump to go live in a foreign country? What is it about you and those of the friends that are down there with you and the people that you hang out with that are not from that area? What is it about you guys that separates you from the people that I guess choose a more traditional lifestyle?
It's such a loaded question because, even though I can tell you how I grew up and what guided me, I grew up in a pretty wealthy family in Newport Beach, California. I don't have a trust fund, never had, anything handed to me ever. But I grew up in a pretty affluent kind of a community and a lifestyle. And even as a young kid in high school, all we wanted to do was go south and go camp and go surf. I think the surf culture brings a lot of it out in you. So right out of high school, I started driving down to Todos Santos in Cabo, and we'd do it many times a year. And I think I maybe sat on one too many beaches, drank Pacificos one too many times, and decided that, I really love being down here, and I know it's possible. And I've always, and we were in business for a long time. It was always my goal to automate things and make it so, our fingers and thoughts didn't have to be on it 24/7, and we can create time for ourselves and our kids and travel. So that's really what it is. And I think always having my kids down here as them growing up and knowing so many people and having them almost feel like it was at home, it wasn't a massive change. I mean, my kids in the last 4 years, my kids are all fluent in Spanish and play with Mexican kids, play with American kids. They play, we hang out as a family more than we would ever hang out as a family up there. I mean, point blank, you know how hard you and I work. I mean, we work really hard, but the great thing about what I get to do is I don't spend any time in traffic, and I get to pick my kids up and then go right to the beach and hang out as I look at another perfect wave rolling down the point right now in front of me. Sorry, I had to add that in.
So,
but it is. That's good.
We're coming up on a 30-minute mark here, and as usual, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. I'll be down there in a couple of weeks. I'll make sure to come up and say hi. What
are you? Does the race go south or north? Does it go to La Paz or out of La Paz?
It goes from La Paz to Cabo. Well, okay. It starts. So we're talking about the NORA 1000 listeners, and it's a race that starts in Ensenada and winds its way down the peninsula for 5 days and ends up in Cabo. And it's somewhat of a vintage event, old school off-road race cars, some new cars as well. And it's kind of revived. It was an original. It was the original 1,000-mile off-road race in Baja, and it's been revived within the last decade. And yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I'll be looking for you. Thanks.
Proud of you, Ryan. Always proud of you, brother. You always do a good job, and you're a great dad. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Right on. I appreciate that, Jason. And we are going to sign off here. Look at that. We hit perfect 30-minute marker thereabouts. Thank you for tuning in to the